Here at Aussie Mixed and Fixed iRacing League, we are pleased to announce 2 new sponsors will be joining us for 2021. Seal Batteries have come on board with over 70 years experience in forklift batteries, chargers and accessories. They are 100% Australian owned and operated with Australia's leading product warranty. Along with Sydney Computers, who are in the business of providing value-based options for your gaming PC requirements, which is tailored and spec to your needs and budget. If you'd like to know more about these companies, please check out the links in the description and be sure to support the companies that support us. We look forward to working with Seal Batteries and Sydney Computers for the rest of the year. So thank you, and we'll see you out on track.
It was in total qualifying, so a huge turnout of drivers to have a crack at this one tonight.
Yeah, very much looking forward to seeing how the guys go tonight. So yeah, very much looking forward to it. Apologies to everybody, sound had some issues, but should have that all sorted now.
And quickly mention to our series sponsors who've been fantastic in coming aboard for not only this championship event, but also the Wednesday night GTs and the Australian Endurance Championship as well. And Seal Batteries have come on board as the naming rights sponsor, along with Sydney Computers. And for the GTE series, A Moment in Sim Photography, who are also helping out with providing fantastic post-race photos from all the events. As we wait for the practice session just to come to its conclusion, we'll quickly touch on a few of the key points as we were saying earlier on about getting through this circuit. As Ryan touched on, the big one down into turn 1, where we expect to see some 2 and 3 wide action, especially off the start as everyone tries to funnel their way through. The big run up through the S's, where for this event anyway, we're not going to be running the inner loop, so it's going to be very important for the guys to get the most out of the run up there as they head towards the carousel. And then as we go through the boot section, multiple lines that we're going to expect to see a lot of these cars working their way through. The big one though, coming off the boot though, Ryan, probably going to be the run through turn 9, where you've got to come back onto the old back straight. It's very off camber, a lot of undulation as you come up the hill as you turn onto that back circuit there. And we have seen in the past quite a few cars coming together at that point.
Yeah, it's a difficult corner because there's quite a few entry modes in there, and drivers definitely like to stick it down the inside into that corner. And if the driver it's taking a wide line, he's not quite sure what's happening, you can see incidents. And turn 1's another one too. The stewards have announced pre-race that the white lines are the defining marks of the track, so any cars running wide at turn 1 must re-enter the track safely. They are considered off track out there, which we do see a lot of drivers use that quite regularly, and that's it's not being shunned by the stewards. What they're saying is, if you're out there and you're coming back on the track, please make sure that you're doing it safely, and if a car's there, you're going to have to yield to the car that's on the track because you're considered off track.
Yeah, and a lot of guys will take that little run just to try and gain that bit more momentum as they blast their way up towards the hill. We're going to see the cars taking to the grid now, and we'll quickly run through the qualifying results here. And surprise, a bit of a change at the front of the pack tonight. Martin Silvassi in the Trick Esports car has taken pole position ahead of Adrian Block. Tom Hagen will start out of third with Ben Dale alongside him in the fourth position. Pat Gallo, great to see him back, starting out of fifth tonight with James Glasspool in sixth. Jesse Butler, another strong result for him, starting out of seventh tonight. And another one of the Trick cars up there with Trent Thomas starting out of eighth. Rizzo, a little bit disappointing qualifying for him, no doubt, starting out of ninth. And I mean, he was last event's race winner there, so a lot of work for him to do to work his way through the field. Tyson Broad starts out of 10th tonight. Adrian Lecty for DPR Racing in the 11th position. And I think it was Steve Jansen will be in 12th. Lucas McAuliffe out of 13th. Chod George in 14th tonight. Danny Davison starts down in 15th alongside Tim Phoeben. Nathan Harpert's out of 16th. Our second place last time out, Matt Morris, starting in the 18th position. Michael Whiting starts in 19th. Steve Jansen alongside him in 20th, with Michael Healy down in 21st position. Jarvin Wood starts out at the 22nd spot, along with Lockhart Brownlee alongside him there. Down in 25th, Amber Griffin. Paul Warwick starts in 24th. Justin Quinn in 27th tonight. Thomas Kircher in the 28th. Plays Jason Bench with a lot of work from 29th tonight, along with Tim Hilbury in 30th. Dale Brigg starts out of 31st, and Jake Fakuris in the 32nd. And our final car on the grid tonight, Joel Che Guevara, a long way down in that 33rd position. We have a bit of a moment here. We'll get to have a look at all the guys working their way around as probably
now,
one of the only few safety.
I think we had some issues with the overlays there. The grid's actually a little bit wrong. You do have Ross Rizzo on pole with Danny Davison right next to him, so apologies there. The gridding software's thrown some something a bit strange for us.
Well, yeah, let's shuffle it up actually. So yeah, we'll quickly update that. So yeah, Ross Rizzo, as you say, up front. Danny Davison third, Ben Dowell in third, James Glasspool in the fourth there. So
there you go, Danny Davison on pole. There you go. That's it fixed there.
And then that brings also then up Tim Phoeben. So there's a bit of a reshuffle there as we see all those update. And a few of those guys we sort of mentioned a long way out, like Dale Bridge, for instance, will come out of the 12th position. So as you see the reshuffle there, it's going to be a good run for these guys. And for the guys that are a little further back, a lot of work for them to do as we continue cycling their way through. Pat Gallo's still in the 13th. Joel Che Guevara, who we thought might have been coming off the rear, now up into 14th, along with Dale Bridge. Jason Bentz moves up to 17th, so it's a better run for him there. And Silvassi will actually drop a little further down as we see the rest of the field cycle their way through.
I think that's a bit of a learning curve for me there, learning the right buttons to press.
Oh, that's all right. We've got plenty of time to go around as the guys continue working their way through. We're on the older section here, and this spot, as the guys head up towards the toe of the boot, is really going to present some interesting lines for them. There's, on average, 2 to 3 lines you can get through here to become very quick as you head up towards the hill.
Yeah, this is another corner where, multiple lines. Coming into this next corner is where a lot of people do like to send it down the inside or the outside, actually. We have seen a lot of two-wide action from here through to the next couple of corners, so you can get some fantastic racing here if the drivers give each other plenty of room, which they generally do, so we'll be looking forward to seeing them give plenty of room and have some great racing around this section, especially this section of the track here.
Absolutely, it's going to be really good to see, and a lot of opportunity for the guys to redress positions as they work through. One final little bit of housekeeping, which we have been touching on the last few races as well, but there have been some updates that series organisers have brought out for the cars to help just identify them just before we go green. So notice all the cars will have a coloured either number panel or mirrors on them. Red will denote our rookie drivers, orange for our amateurs, green for our professional drivers, and purple for our elite drivers. And as we head up towards the final corner here, the pace car will dive away, and we will see Ross Rizzo take control of the field. As pace car pulls away, the field coming up towards the line, we're looking for the lights to go green, and away they go. Danny Davison with a great jump to get away from Ross Rizzo, who covers from his teammate James Glasspool just behind. The Mac 1 cars are coming as well, and then further back in the field, it's 3 wide action as the guys work their way down into that first turn there. Quite a few cars running off at the first corner there, as we sort of expected there, but the guys out front, it's a fantastic getaway for all of them and Danny Davison will lead us up the front straight for the first time.
Yeah, great jump from Danny Davison. Rizzo's tucked in there behind him, but he's had a fantastic jump. And by the looks of it, a pretty clean getaway for the entire field too. So fantastic start from this nice big field, and they're going to get into some great racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a lot of movement up and down throughout the field. We are seeing a couple of movers a little further down with Ben Dow just having a look on the inside of James Glasspool as they work their way through the carousel for the first time. But it is Danny Davison leading the way ahead of Ross Rizzo. James Glasspool, Ben Dow sitting now in that fourth position. Tim Feeman just in behind. And as we drop a little further back, Matt Morris is working his way through the field as well. Down in 14th, he's had a really good getaway at the line, up 6 spots from where he started. He's got Adrian Leckie now just ahead as he has a look up towards the hill and just having a move left and right to try and understand where he can get through. But a lot of work for him to do. A little further down, and as I said at the top of the show, came home second last time out with a fantastic run in the Ford. So look for him to work his way through the field, but it is early on and he's got plenty of time to come through the field here as Adrian actually gets a little bit more of a gap on him as they work their way through 9 up towards the front. We have got a car around. Who is that? Let's try to see. I think that's Ben Dow of Mac 1 Esports has gone around out of the second to last corner there.
Yeah, it looks like Ben Dow's gone around. And we've got another one spinning on the main straight now too, so there's every chance we'll see a safety car from the stewards.
Yeah, it looks like there are 2 cars involved in that. Pat Gallo is in the pit lane as well as Ben Dow, so both those guys look to have been able to clear the circuit there. And potentially you might see Tim Hilbury involved in that as well. He is very slow just coming across the start-finish line now. But up front, again, our leader's still continuing on. The gap is hovering at 0.2 of a second. Rizzo already in conservation mode. Lift and coast on the way into the carousel. He's trying to play it for the pit stop later on in the race.
I was about to say, I don't know how many times we've said it talking about Ross Rizzo, but this man's all about fuel conservation, and if he's stuck in behind you, we all know he's just going to lift and coast and just cruise along, save as much fuel as he possibly can and jump you in the pit stop.
Yeah, and it's really impressive just to see the way that he's able to maintain the speed while doing that. Get an eye on some of the sector times as the guys work their way through and it starts to normalise. But even in doing so, he's actually quicker through sector 2 this lap, a little down through 3, but he's thereabouts. As you see, look back to his teammate James Glasspool in the capo position there, just looking to maybe make a move if they get an opportunity. He's sitting pretty comfortable, but surprisingly our top 3 have already started to build a bit of a notable gap over Tom Hagen, and that would have been as a result of the rotation we saw for Ben Dow.
Yeah, we've actually got a copy of that now, so we'll jump through and have a look and see what happened to him.
Jump back here. You see Ben gets a nice run. Actually, he's picked it up on the outside of the curb there and rotated it around on the grass. Looks like a lot of guys managed to get through, but it was the one Mac car hitting another one. I think that might have been Pat Gallo that was involved in that one. And
yeah, it's really unfortunate. I think Pat Gallo, his teammates, had a bit of a coming in with him. So, and then I think it looks like Tim Himbry's had the crash on the start-finish straight.
See if we can see Himbry. So Himbry's just tried to get around Pat Gallo there, and Gallo's just turned it in. Contacts, just missing the run.
Yeah, look, Tim's just gone the wrong way, unfortunately, and tried to make a move down the inside through the pit lane, and unbeknownst to him that Pat Gallo was actually coming into the pit. So yeah, that's a bit of an unfortunate move there from Tim.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see him work his way through. He is down in 31st position. A little bit of work to do if he does want to cover up to the back of the field. He's 28 seconds behind at this point in time, but we do still have the pit stops to go through. We may potentially even see a safety car at this point, depending on how things cycle their way through. But that now has brought Tom Hagen up into 4th position, ahead of his teammate Tim Feeman in another one of the Mac 1 Esports cars. Right behind them, Trent Thomas has also gained a couple of spots early on, but it's very much dominated at the moment at the front of the field by both Mac 1 and Trick Esports.
Yeah, look, Trick Esports obviously have dominated the series for quite a while now, but Mark 1 definitely dominate with the entries in this series. There's a lot of Mark 1 drivers in this series, but there's still quite a few of them are in the elite class, and Tom Hagen's one of them, and he's pushing through, and hopefully he's got the pace to catch up to these guys up the front there and make it a 4-horse, even 5-horse race if you can tow these other guys along with Phoeben and Thomas in behind.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Ferrari's been very quick in the opening few races, so look for them to work their way through. As you can see, already starting to pull a little bit of a gap down the back straight there with over his teammates. The two BMWs, no real slouches, but just lacking that little bit of top end as we see this one continue on. Other than Pat Gallo and Ben Dow, we have had a few big movers throughout the field early on. Thomas Kircher has actually had a bit of a moment there through the carousel. He's now dropped down to 29th position, 30th, sorry, so 11 positions lost for him there. But one of the big movers is Michael Healy, up 14 spots from where he started, currently in 18th position in the Trek Esports BMW there. He's had a very good run throughout the field. Right behind him, Lockhart Brownlee, and a new livery on the Fusion Sim Racing car tonight, which is great to see.
Yeah, I did see that announcement during the week that Fusion have got new sponsors and new livery, and it's a fantastic looking car.
Yeah, a bit of an update too on the logo as well. So they've had almost the triple header, getting everything done at the same time, and the cars look fantastic out there. And hopefully we'll see them work their way forward as one of the other team cars in the hands of Nathan Huppert's up in 7th position as well. So they're up and down throughout the field, which is great to see. And as we have a ride on board here, you can get a good look off from Lockhart Brownlee's position at what Michael Healy's doing down in through turn 1.
And that's something I touched on earlier on. As we see Lockhart going wide there, that's what the stewards announced that they were looking at. So if you go wide there and a driver does manage to get up the inside of you, then you're going to have to enter the track safely, and you may have to yield. As you see the BMW all over the back of Brownlee there. Paul Warwick really having a go.
Almost picking up a little bit of a double draft as the guys head down into the carousel there, with Brownlee also trying to get one through on Healy. So straight line performance of that Ford, very handy at the moment. Just maybe a little cooped up as you see him dart to the inside, not quite close enough to get that move completed off. But Paul Warwick sitting in behind, he's looking very racy early on.
I'll tell you who's very racy. This man here, our second place winner from last week, Matt Morris, is up 12 positions already. So clearly he had a shocking qualifying compared to what his race pace is like. As you can see, he's losing the gap a little bit to Huppert's over the last couple of laps, but he might have just had a bit of a moment on the last lap. But he's absolutely flying and up 12 positions already.
Doing a fantastic job, and that was one of the things that we sort of spoke about post-race with Matt. He has been struggling a fair bit with the qualifying in this car, and he was saying that if you get the race pace in qualifying that he's got through the race, he's been well up the field, and I think that's evident. We'll see him challenging up with these guys as we have a quick look at Nathan Huppert's, and a new car for him this season, switching from the C8, which he campaigned last time out, moving over to the BMW, and having another good run as well, up 4 spots early on, puts himself into 7th position.
Yeah, Nathan's having a great run there, and it's nice to see him in a different car. And again, this brand new livery for FSR looks fantastic.
It's great use of the colours there. They all sort of contrast themselves very nicely along the side, as they've kind of got a very symmetrical design on both sides. I really like it. It's quite fetching out there. But at the moment, just looking at the pace advantage that we see with these guys. Last time by for Huppert's, it was a 140.76. He was actually a tenth slower than Matt Morris behind. So even though it looked like Morris was starting to fall back a bit, he might be starting to come through on a little bit of a charge. We'll keep an eye on this to see how it unfolds. Our leaders out front, Davison and Rizzo, matching each other pace for pace, as a 140.09 for both of those two as they continued on. And they're already starting to gain a little bit of an advantage now over James Glasspool in that 3rd position. The gap just out to 0.7 of a second.
Yeah, I think Rizzo's just going to stick with him and just save as much fuel as he possibly can. And then come the pit stop, you'll see. But as you can see in behind, James Glasspool, who's been managed to stuck in their toe for quite a while, he's still got the fastest lap of the race. So the toe does mean a lot here.
Yeah, definitely. If you can get up in the back of it, and as we see these guys just starting to fall off, a lot of time to be had. And I mean, that was evident when we watched the onboard there for Lockhart Brownlee coming up on the back of the BMW, was able to really close the gap there. And actually, speaking of Lockhart, is in the lane for his first stop tonight, along with Chris Russell, Thomas Kircher, and Justin Quinn. So, a few guys taking the early opportunity to come in, which around this circuit, not sure how that's going to play out, because it is going to put you well down, and you don't come in with a teammate. A lot of work to do trying to work your way back up through the field.
Jump on board with Jesse Butler here as he's chasing down Janssen and Block. The BMW strength versus the Corvettes here. We'll see how the BMW handles it here.
Yeah, both Corvettes looking very racy. I'm not sure what's happening to Block. He's having a bit of a connection issue tonight, which is unfortunate to see, because that will put Steve Jansen off just a fraction there as they work their way down through the toe. But Butler looking very smooth in the Mach 1 car. Good to see him working his way through. Keep an eye out just behind though. Tyler Broad and Jason Benson closing in as well on these guys. So this is going to turn into a fairly nice 5-car train, and not too far up the road. Also, Adrian Lechty in the BMW just a little further ahead of these guys also. So we could potentially see 6 cars all in a line here as they work their way through, and all looking very good. It's surprising to see just how evenly paced all of these cars are. The work behind the scenes done by the Steed to get the BOP as close as possible with the setups is looking fantastic at the moment.
Yeah, look, the Stig always does a fantastic job for us, and look, unfortunately, the Porsche this is definitely not a Porsche track. The Porsche is definitely struggling here at this track. I'm not sure if we even got a Porsche into the top split tonight. I think we got one. Javin Wood managed to bring a Porsche into the top split. So it's a bit unfortunate, but this is definitely not a Porsche track in these setups. So, but the Porsche does come into its own in other tracks as well.
Absolutely, and I think we're probably likely to see the Porsche do really well at the next event. We're off to Road Atlanta next time out, so that will be a very good circuit for the Porsche there, especially with the slow speed run onto the rear straight. But as we keep an eye on this battle here, Michael Healy has been able to hold off Paul Warwick just behind Martin Silvassi, another one of the Trick Esports cars, just closing in behind 3 cars altogether within about a second of themselves. They have fallen off the back of Joel Chikavara, however, who's 4.5 seconds up the road from these guys. But the 3 BMWs very evenly paced as they work their way through the boot. You can see Warwick's able to hold that inside line a little better, and might be able to get a bit more of a run, but I think Healy just being that little fraction higher has helped him with the run up towards the heel, and both these cars braking fantastically well. We'll see what they're like as they crest the hill up towards turn 9, whether or not they can make any gain. But actually, if anything, Warwick's a little bit tighter there. He's going to get a slightly better run out on exit as Healy's a little wide, having to manage the throttle coming onto the back straight.
Yeah, it's interesting watching the 2 different lines of the drivers in identical cars there and seeing where the drivers are gaining and losing time on each other. As you see Joel jump into the pits, so Joel's jumped in for his pit stop now. So we
and
jump back to
Whiting also followed him in also.
I was going to say, as we jump back to the leaders, we still see Ross Rizzo just keeping pace with Danny Davison, just making sure he's constantly staying in his draft. I would assume lifting and coasting. So Danny has a moment coming into there, and Rizzo's going to get a great run down this side of the corner. He will have to go the long way around here.
Yeah, he should be able to hold him off though with the pace that he's going to get from the slingshot on the outside. That was a very nice move there from Rizzo to get down the inside. And Davison did well to try and fend it off for as long as possible, but he's going to have to relent as they head up into the heel. I don't think he's close enough to get that move taken care of, and that will now put Rizzo into the lead. 9 laps in the making for him to come through. See what he can do as he now gets a bit of clean air ahead of himself.
Yeah, I think that the thing is now is can Danny stick with Rizzo, or is Rizzo just going to pull away? Hopefully Danny can stay in his draft and save a bit of fuel himself, and bring the fight back to Rizzo in the pit stop phase.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting strategy play to see who wants to blink first, and whether Davison tries the undercut on Rizzo, or whether Ross decides to do a similar thing. They have got themselves a fairly big advantage over the rest of the field at the moment. Have a look through the track map. A long time before we do expect to see any lap traffic getting picked up, but if the guys were to come in and pick now, based on the times that we're seeing for everyone of around 40 seconds to transit through, it'll drop them down around 25th position at the moment, which is just about coming through the final corner now. So it's a pretty big gap, or pretty big time spent sitting in pit lane trying to get these services completed. So it'll be interesting to see how they want to play this and where they want to stick themselves in the traffic later on.
Yeah, it'll be. This is always a difficult track, and it's not so horrible coming out in traffic as long as you know you're faster than them and you can get the slingshot around them. But if you come out in traffic in that top 10 and struggle to get by, it could really hurt your race.
Absolutely. Well, these guys are continuing their battle out front. A little further back, Tom Huggan and Tim Phoeben getting into their own little fight, although that's now sort of extended as the guys work their way up the hill. They're still working on Trent Thomas, who's actually managed to...
I was going to say Trent Thomas has managed to jump Huggan at some point there. So he's up 4 positions. He's having a fantastic race tonight.
Yeah, we missed that pass. He's coming through the field very, very nicely. He'll be able to see how his pace is looking as we quickly look at a replay of this one going through, and it's down off the back straight there. So we'd already dispensed of Tim Phoeben. This is the move on Tom Huggan down in towards the carousel. And surprisingly, the BMW just outpaces him the whole way down.
Yeah, Trent must have had a fantastic run out of turn 1 and then down through the S's and then up onto the straight. So if you get that great run out of turn 1, then you really can just reap gains the entire way down in the draft.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see too from Hugger's perspective whether he may have lifted a little bit just to allow that move to go through seamlessly or not. But have a look maybe later on. We get a word from the guys and find out how it is. Matt Morris, on the other hand, has now caught up to Nathan Huppert. And it's going to be a repeat move down the back straight, down the outside here. He gets the move done on Nathan Huppert long before the guys tip in towards the carousel. But Huppert is going to keep him honest. He keeps the nose of the BMW in there, trying to manufacture another move on the outside of the carousel here, but I don't think he's going to have the grip to hold off the Ford down the inside. And another fantastic move from Matt Morris.
Yeah, he's absolutely flying tonight. Nathan Huppert's made him really work for that move, but at the end of the day, really great racing from both drivers, enough room given, and Matt takes another position. He's now up 13 places and into 7th position tonight.
Yeah, driven fantastically well, and it's going to be a really good battle. I think this one is going to continue on through the race. We're only 18 minutes elapsed in this one, of 45 minutes, still a pit stop in the bag for these guys to come and complete. So we'll see how this all unfolds. As a few other guys that have managed to work their way up through the field. Michael Healy now up 17 spots. Jake Fakura up 16 spots from where he started down in 17th. He's had a fantastic drive. And Javon Wood in the Porsche there while we're having the pit stop cycle through down 10 spots. So that will probably change as these pit stops do come through and change out. And the guys that were involved in the earlier incidents, Ben Dow and Pat Gallo, are still continuing their run back through the field. Gallo's made his way up to 28th position at the moment. Ben Dow, not so fortunate, still stuck down in 32nd place. Back down in 14th, Jesse Butler having a look on the back of Tyson Broad. And it's a good little fight here between another one of the BMWs and the C8s. Just ahead of these guys as well, Steve Jansen and Adrian Vlock a little further up. So the two teammates there for Sumo Racing doing very, very well. As turn our attention a little further up, Adrian Leckie now in the front ahead of Vlock, who we were just mentioning, and Steve Jansen, as these guys now work their way down towards the toe. And there's a good drive from Leckie in the BMW holding off the C8s, which are probably at this point a little bit quicker and a little more kinder on their tyres.
Yeah, I think they are slightly. The BMW's a big, heavy car, so it does tend to chew its tyres a fair bit. But the C8's definitely come a long way since it first got introduced into iRacing. It's a great car to drive, and these guys are pressing on in it.
Absolutely. If you're stuck in the back of the battle here, Ryan, when do you think your time would be coming in for a pit stop if you're Adrian Block, for instance? Would you be diving in sooner rather than later?
Watkins Glen's always a difficult one when you choose for your pit stop because track position is key in most races, but the draft is key here. If you pit by yourself and come out by yourself, then you're going to be a sitting duck after the pit stops because you're just going to have no speed. It's a very fine line when you pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll probably see these three at least all come in together. If no unfortunates befall any of them, you can already see Vlock trying to get a move done here. Back up the front, however, Rizzo has let the lead of the race back to Danny Davison. We didn't get a look at when that one unfolded, but Davison in the Ford back ahead. As we'll quickly jump back to that. Thank you very much, Mr. Colstat. That's again down in towards the carousel here with Davison going the long way around. So he fought hard for that one to try and get it through. Rizzo not really needing to get amongst it. He's still playing the strategy game very early on, as we saw with the lifted coast, and now settles himself back in behind.
Yeah, I think you got that one spot on. I think Rizzo saw him go for the move around the outside and kind of just went, well, let's not lose too much time to Glasspool, and they have let Glasspool back in this race. So he's decided just to tuck in and just go back to fuel saving before the pit stop.
Yeah, and touching on that pit stop option again, I mean, this probably works in quite well for Ross. Having a teammate alongside him, if in the event they do need to come in together, they've then got that little bit of a draft that they can leverage to try and pull themselves back into contention again, as Matt Morris now dives into the lane for his first stop from 7th position. So we'll see where he falls back through. Had a look to, as we came across the line, Trent Thomas has still got both Tim Phoeben and Tom Huggan behind him, so Phoeben's actually managed to get ahead of his teammate there a few laps ago, and now it's the Mach 1 cars in 5th and 6th position.
Yeah, maybe the Ferrari might be struggling with its tyres here. I'm not sure what's happened there, but the Ferrari does seem to be dropping back from the BMW as you see Tim Phoeben make a move on Thomas down into the carousel, and Thomas aware to it and fights him around the outside.
Yeah, I think Trent really positioned the car very nicely there. He's in a good spot to try and withstand that pressure from Phoeben there, and as he's been able to do, keep it on the high side, sets himself up for the next run off the main circuit down in towards the boot, and is able to keep Phoeben behind him. So great placement from the veteran there, and Trent Thomas now continues on this fight. Still got a few battles up and down throughout the field. Lucas McAuliffe down at 18th has got himself into a good position. I think that might be Matt Morris just ahead of him, who Matt's just come out of the pit lane. So we'll see these guys continue their fight on. But great to see McAuliffe mixing it with Matt there. Yeah,
and it'll be interesting now because obviously Matt's pulled the trigger early. He's the first of the front runners to come in and pit. He'll get that benefit of being stationary for his fuel. His tyres will have cooled down. It'll give his tyres a chance to just get a little bit more life back in them, and he'll set some really fast laps for his first 2 or 3 laps coming out of pit lane. So it'll be interesting to see how the undercut does or will work at this track.
Definitely. I mean, just for point of reference, is where Matt is on the circuit heading up towards turn 9. Our race leaders now have got themselves onto the back straight. They head down towards the carousel. So a lot of work for him still left to do. And no doubt, as you say, he will recoup a lot of that when the rest of those guys come through for their respective stops. We did see too Trent Thomas, Dale Grigg and Adrian Leckie all come in for their one and only pit stops tonight. And that will drop those guys a little further down, but they are in good position. Leaving only really our top 12 at this point in time still yet to come down the lane for a pit stop.
Yeah, and with these cars, they're fuel limited. Each car's only got, I think it's 60 litres of fuel on board. We've also limited the tanks to 65% fuel capacity, so the pit window's generally from about minute 15, 16 till about minute 32, 33 in the races. That's our pit window for getting home. So if they can't pit too early, otherwise they won't make it home. They won't be able to put enough fuel in there because of the limited tank capacities. And obviously you'll run out of fuel if you run past about 30 odd minutes. So that pit window is actually, it's not a very big pit window. So it's interesting to see some tracks the undercut works and other tracks the overcut works. So, it all remains to be seen how it's going to work here.
Absolutely. I mean, let's not forget too, last time out we saw a fantastic fuel-saving run from Matt Morris coming in under the safety car there, which was a very bold strategy call, managing to get the car home at Monza there. He did it can be done for the guys that can get it in the right mindset early on in those stints, save that little bit of fuel, sacrifice a little bit of lap time. Definitely an opportunity to bring these cars home. As we have a look down at the pit strategies at the moment, everyone's still yet to come in their respective stops. A few substantial pace gains there, as you can see the field cycling through. Trent Thomas, our first driver, coming in for his pit stop on lap 14. Morris similarly came in lap 15, as you see a few more guys now continuing to work their way through.
Yeah, and you can see that obviously stationary time. Matt Morris was stationary for almost 17 seconds, so he's put a lot of fuel on board there. That may come back to hurt him.
Quite potentially. Or we're going to see him be able to turn up the whip that little bit more and press on a little bit harder. We'll wait and see, as there's still just under 19 minutes in this one, so still plenty of time for these guys to continue working their way around. As we have a look back, Adrian Block and Steve Jansen are still continuing on this great fight. We've been watching for quite a few laps. Actually, it's a change of position with Jansen now getting ahead of Block, as just up in the distance. We've also got Nathan Huppert for the Fusion Sim Racing team further ahead in that BMW. So these guys are looking pretty pacey at the moment. Both drivers have gained a couple of positions along the way. Jansen too, actually, and Block similarly losing a spot, as now our race leader Danny Davison drives in the lane for his stop tonight. But these guys pace-wise has been very, very consistent. It was a 41.05 as Block now drops in the lane, and Jansen a 1 minute 40 on the last two or three. And see a few more guys come in. So we had Danny Davison, Adrian Block, Tyson Broad and Martin Silvassi all come down the lane for their respective pit stops, leaving Ross Rizzo and teammate James Glasspool back out front of the field with a rather commanding lead over now Tim Phoeben and Tom Huggin, who are exchanged in their own little battle as the Trick Esports cars and two Mach 1 cars continue on this pace. But great racing from all of these guys and very clean, consistent running from Rizzo out front.
Yeah, and Rizzo's about to catch 30th position of Justin Quinn, so you would think more than likely he's going to pit this lap to avoid running into that lap traffic and avoid, getting stopped or balked down and not being able to continue on with the race. So I would assume we will see Rizzo win this lap.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for a lot of these guys, especially after last week at Monza, where we saw a lot of the front runners catching and making moves on the back markers, some clean, consistent driving from all those guys. I don't think we're going to see any issue where those guys are getting involved in their own battles and taking anyone out there, as Matt Morris now has mirrors full of Dale Breed in the XCM Racing Team car just behind as the guys work their way up towards the toe of the circuit. And these guys are very, very quick. It was 1 minute 40 for both of these guys last time by, and actually Matt Morris just managing to get a little bit quicker time, but Breed looking very pacey just behind.
Matt Morris actually passed him on this lap earlier on, and he's just carving through the field, and I think that extra fuel is allowing him to just really put the hammer down. As we see, the top 7 are all in the pit lane now, so Danny Davison will be coming around, and it'll be close between Davison and Rizzo as Rizzo comes out of pit lane now.
Yeah, well, you called that one spot on the money there, as Rizzo was in that lap. And actually for Davison, it's been a bit of a costly early tour through the lane. He's dropped himself now down into 3rd position as the Slim one very wide down through turn 1. James Glasspool gets ahead with 2 seconds, just on a 4/10 advantage, but Ross Rizzo gaining 2 seconds over these guys as they continue to run through.
And look, I don't put that down to Danny stopping early. I put that down to the fuel that Rizzo was able to save, and I know Rizzo's been helping Glasspool learn how to fuel save as well, so clearly Glasspool's tucked in behind them, was saving a bit of fuel as well, and obviously able to stay stationary for a little bit longer, a little bit less time, and we should be able to actually have a look at their stops now, and there you go. Davison was 12.7 seconds stationary, where Rizzo was 10.8 and Glasspool was 11.3, so clearly being able to fuel save there.
Yeah, it was a good point. I was just about to have mentioned that about the pit stop time. So it was quite a good advantage, although the stationary transit, or the total transit time, sorry, with those stops comes in very similar, where the 2 second advantage was lost because it was a 41 second, 41.8 second transit for Rizzo, whereas Davison a 44.4, so a little bit slower getting through, and so a couple of seconds will be to the fuel there. But I wonder if he just missed the mark on entry, trying to get the car down onto the pit limiter.
Yeah, and it's one of those tracks where the pit lane is on the exit of a corner, so you've really got to commit to pit lane early, and those yellow cones come up very, very quickly. So you really got to be making sure you know where your mark is to stop.
Definitely, as we go back up towards the front, this battle for fourth position continuing on. Phoeben, through the pit stop cycle, has managed to get ahead now of Trent Thomas as the guys work their way up through the S's, and the two BMWs continue on their fight. A little bit of a slower stop there for Trent. It was a 12.4 second stationary time compared to an 11.6, which was just enough to get Phoeben in front, as Thomas, looking down the inside, is not quite close enough to get that move done, but just sticks the nose in, letting him know he's ready to have a run.
Yeah, he got a really good run down that back straight, so he's just stuck the nose out there, let him know he's there, and I think he's going to pressure Phoeben for as long as he possibly can.
Yeah, and we've already seen these guys have some good battling early on at the start of this race. No reason to think that won't continue as they work their way out of the toe up towards the heel of the boot, and a little bit of an advantage, if anything, in favour of Tim Phoeben getting through there. So he's able to just run the preferred line down into the heel, as Trent's just a fraction offline there on the run through, trying to gain that little bit of an advantage as they work their way up towards the hill to this off-camber section down onto the traditional back straight of Watkins Glen there, and very evenly matched at the moment. Surprisingly for Hagen, hasn't been able to really close the gap down too much. It's sitting at 1.4 seconds as they work their way through that second to last and now final corner of the lap. But the BMW been very consistent, whereas the Ferrari maybe just falling off a fraction at this point.
Yeah, I think it might just be the Ferrari maybe not keeping its tyres as well as the BMW. I'm not really sure. I'd like to. Be nice to have a chat with Tom at some point during the week and figure out what's happening there and why the pace dropped off so dramatically through the race. As we see Matt Morris still on this charge, catching up to Nathan Huppets. The early pit stop didn't quite work for Matt Morris in terms of jumping people, because Huppets has come out in front of him again, but Matt's absolutely flying here and looks like he's got a really good run coming down onto the straight.
Yeah, he's going to take full advantage of the draft. Huppets is aware of it and goes a little bit defensive down the inside there, and just keeps the nose of the Future Sim Racing BMW just ahead there as we ride on board with Matt Morris here. Great run from Huppets getting through there. And Nathan's seen all the tricks in the book get thrown at you on how to work their way through. So this is not going to be an easy challenge for Matt Morris working his way through. But Morris also going to have to be cautious, because not too far behind, we've still got Dale Bridge, Steve Jansen and Adrian Flock. You can just see in the back of the shot there now, getting involved in their own little exchange as they try and close this gap down.
Yeah, I think this could turn out to be a very, very good battle between these two drivers. Two very competent AMF drivers, have been around for a very long time in AMF, and both drivers are very fast in their own rights, and yeah, it should be a great battle between these two.
Absolutely, and there's still plenty of time left for Morris to try and get this move done. Just on 11 minutes here to go in this one, so we're probably expecting another 8 laps at this point before the conclusion. So Morris has got plenty of time left to look at getting a move completed and sorted here on Huppets, but it's going to be a fantastic battle to watch these guys go through. As we turn our attention further back down the field, Jesse Butler involved in a great scrap still. It's got Tyson Broad ahead, Joel Chikavara just behind. And they're still chasing down Adrian Lecty, who's been really the cork in the bottle for this one. The entirety of the race has really managed to keep these guys nicely behind them, and they are scrapping out over that 12th position.
Yeah, Adrian's managed to have very good pace against these guys and just hold them at bay with a decent interval. It's not like he's going super defensive or anything like that. He's just holding a decent pace and managing to keep these guys at bay. But we've got a decent train there happening. It's about to turn into a 5-car train. But yeah, when the cars are so evenly matched and the drivers themselves, it does make it very, very difficult to make a pass at a track like this.
Absolutely, and I think this is a really good run here for Tyson Broad, who is one of our amateur-rated drivers. You can tell by the orange mirrors on the C8 there. He's really mixing it up here with the likes of Butler and Lecty, and I mean, Butler's a pro-ranked driver in this championship, so to be able to hold off Jesse here, this is a fantastic drive for him, and only going to build further confidence as he works his way through the remainder of the season.
Yeah, we touched on Tyson in the last race, how good he was going this series, and I think even as an amateur driver, I don't think he'll be in the amateur class next season. He's having a fantastic season, and he's sticking it to the pros and the elite guys, so he can mix it with these guys, so he definitely deserves that promotion, and it should be coming. Obviously we're only 5 races into the season, but if he continues the season the way he's going, he will look to be getting a promotion at the end of the season.
Absolutely, and for any of the viewers out there also who would love to come on board and have a race in the AMF Championship, whether it be the Wednesday night GT3, the once a month enduro for the Australian Endurance Championship, or the every Sunday AMF GT Series, please jump over to the AMS Facebook page or Aussie Mixed and Fixed website. There are links to how you can join the series and the Discord channels. It'd be great to see you on over and having a drive, because the racing is fantastic. The rule book making and the adjudication by the stewards behind the scenes absolutely fantastic. And you see tonight we're having some solid racing up and down throughout the field as we exchanged one good battle there before with Tyson and Jesse. We've gone to another one now with Tim Phoebe and Trent Thomas continuing on this fight for 4th position as they work their way up towards the hill. There's been a couple of laps that we've been watching this one. Trent, he's going to be looking to, he'll be sick of seeing the back of the Mach 1 car. He'd love to get ahead of it, but he's already starting to work out where he's a little bit stronger.
Yeah, I think he's definitely stronger into turn 1, and that gives him that fantastic run up through the S's and onto the straight. So look for Trent to make the move into the carousel, I would say.
Continues on, he's definitely in for a good run there, and we have seen the bulk of the passes tonight done on that run down through the back straight as the guys pressed up through the S's and leveraged the draft. And with the way Trent's running, I mean, he's already forcing Phoebe to be very defensive down through the front straight down in towards turn 1 there, using all the road. The guys come out going very wide there, and as you were saying earlier, Ryan, the stewards will be keeping an eye on that if there is any passing being completed through that phase of the lap, and good chance to have a look at these guys down the front straight and might stack on board and just listen to the sound of the BMW.
Yeah, it seems like Trent's got Tim's measure for the first half of the lap, and then Tim seems to have Trent's measure for the second half of the lap. So it's going to be a great battle to the end. We've only got 6.5 minutes to go, so they're going to fight like this all the way to the end, I would say. I don't see Tom Huggan catching up to this train, but if these guys fight a little bit more, you will see Tom Huggan come into the picture as well.
Definitely, and this could be a good opportunity maybe for Phoebe to try and back Trent into Tom, because if you're the middle driver in a group of 3, it always is a bit harder getting your way through here. So this could have almost helped Phoebe if he can bring his teammate up into this fight. As Matt Morris now has managed to complete the move on Nathan Huppert, now promotes himself up into 7th position. We can get a look at that one as we're riding on board there with Trent, but Matt now is 6.5 or 6 seconds to go. If he wants to close up onto the back of this train as well. So it's in the realm of possibility, especially with the pace that he's had on board. I mean, he's just over 0.3 of a second quicker than these guys ahead of him, so he could possibly bridge that gap as we'll duck back to the replay to see this one unfold. Actually, it's Danny Davison on James Glasspool down in towards the carousel, and Davison with a nice clean run down the inside. Glasspool not really, he's held the car in there a little bit, trying to retain the position, but Davison a little bit more forceful as the guys tip their way down into the run towards the toe.
And this is the move Matt Morris on Nathan Huppert's. He's got the run really, really early. He's just gonna, I think he's just gonna blow by him by the outside.
Yeah, another great run there from Morris going through. I mean, that forward has been very, very quick. We've seen it all throughout the season in the hands of Rizzo and Davison, and another good example of that. And what we're watching, that Trent Thomas now has managed to slide the Trick Esports BMW through on Tim Phoeben as the guys work their way out of the heel and up onto the traditional back section of the lap there. So great move there from Trent to get back ahead, and Huggins now in with a chance as well for this one. He's only 4/10 now off the back of his teammate. So could this be the turn where the Ferrari is now starting to come into contention?
Yeah, look, it could be, or it could just be that these guys are fighting so hard that it's allowed him to catch back up. I'd like to have a look at that pass from Trent Thomas as well. We've got a copy of that.
Trent set that one up from a long way back, got a great run down out of the carousel, and then just slides it on nicely through in at the toe there. That was a great run, and not an overly contested run there from Trent Thomas. And as we go back to live pitches, the fight's still continuing on down to the carousel, trying to see a redress of both of these spots. A little bit of hip and shoulder from the guys as they turn in to head down towards the toe there, but these two guys are so evenly matched at the moment. There is not much between them, and this is really now bringing Tom Huggan into contention here on the back of these two.
It is, but it's going to be difficult for Huggan because it's his teammate in front of him. Like, if it was Trent Thomas, it'd be nice and easy. You wait for him to go for a move and then you stick it down the inside. But when it's your teammate, you don't want to stop them having their fight, but in the same breath, a position's a position, so it's a very, very difficult position for Tom Huggan to be in. Does he go for the move or does he stay where he is?
Well, that's the tough one, and I'm sure there's a fair bit of communication going over the in-team radios there just to see whether or not either of these drivers are quicker or not, and we may yet see a change of position, but it looks like with these two now starting their own little internal team fight, Trent Thomas has been able to build a little bit of a gap, half a second as they work their way down into turn one. And you can see the back end of the Trig Esports BMW just protesting on the turn in. It didn't really want to get in there nice and easily. And Trent's going to be fighting this car home now for the next 3 minutes as we see the guys rise up over the hill. Might see Phoeben come back in with an opportunity down at the back of the straight, but he is a little off the back here. 0.3 of a second, but as that graph really starts to encompass these cars, it's dropping at a rapid rate of knots. It's down to just over a 1/10 of a second as the guys turning towards the carousel. I think Phoeben just that fraction too far off at this point.
Unfortunately, while that was all happening, Nathan Hupperts has had a bit of a crash as well, out of I think 7th or 8th position. And yeah, just as we saw at the start of the race, dipping that tyre onto a little bit too far onto that ribble strip, and around you go.
Yeah, it was almost a carbon copy of that rotation of Ben Dow that was, as you say, on lap one there. And it will catch out not only the most inexperienced drivers, but it can still catch out the most experienced drivers. You can see there from Nathan Hupperts. But Huppy's been able to get the car back out and away. We're just having a scale up and down throughout the standings to see where he is. So he's now down in 19th position.
Michael Healy down in 15th position's actually gained 17 positions tonight. So he's absolutely stormed through the field.
Definitely, Healy at the moment going to be driver of the night with getting through the field. He's done a standout job. Joel Chiguevara just in behind, a couple of spots down from where he started. He runs very wide through the hill there, and potentially going to lose a spot there to Paul Warwick as the guys run up through turn 9. But Healy being very clean and consistent. We did see him a little bit earlier on in the event, and just kept his nose clean and driven this car home very nicely.
And while all that was happening, Tom Huggins actually made the move on his teammate as well. So team orders are thrown out the window. Oh no, looks like Tim's hit the wall at the exit of the final turn.
I don't know whether he collected the wall or just got it up into the dirt there, but Huggan taking advantage of that one and now gets himself through. We'll see whether they retain the spots or whether Huggan's now able to come back at Trent Thomas up in front as these guys will continue their fight on. Just a quick recap too of our leading 3 positions at the moment. Ross Rizzo out front with a 2.2 second advantage.
On the final lap too. So Ross Rizzo on the final lap has started the final lap and coming around. Just want to have a quick look at this incident from Tim Phoeben here. We'll go on this onboard. This will tell us as close as we're going to get. Yeah, he's actually had a moment. He's given the wall a bit of a tag, and that'd be why Huggins managed to jump in there. As we see Rizzo come around the final time and take the checkered flag for the win. Another outstanding race from Rizzo, and at the end of the day, a commanding win with 2.2 seconds down to Danny Davison.
Yeah, very, very strong drive from our podium runners there. Glasspool will get the car across the line in third. Trent Thomas home in fourth ahead of Tom Huggan and Tim Phoeben. It's a great showing from those guys. Matt Morris with a storming drive up through the field, 13 positions gained to get home in seventh. Janssen in eighth. Vlock in ninth ahead of Dale Breed, who comes home in 10th. We've still got a few battles for these guys continuing to work their way through. Not sure whether we'll see any additional position changes. Martin Silvassi's in a great fight as the guys work their way across the line, and just not quite going to have the legs on bench there to get it over. Gavin Wood, the sole Porsche out there tonight, having a bit of a quiet run as he'll come across the line down in 21st position. The remainder of the field going to get their way through this Michael White coming through ahead of M. Griffin. Brett Hawkins, Pat Gallo, good recovery from him with the earlier lap 1 incident where he got into his teammate in Ben Dowell, and then Lucas McAuliffe and Justin Quinn getting across the line. So another great race for round 5 there. We saw some fantastic battles up and down throughout the field tonight.
Yeah, there were some great battles. I really enjoyed the battle between Trent Thomas, Tom Huggan and Tim Phoeben. That was an absolutely fantastic battle. They gave each other plenty of room. Matt Morris and Nathan Huppert's had a great battle too. They had some great side-by-side battling with each other. Drivers, special mention to especially Matt Morris with a great run up through. I think he gained 13 positions, but Michael Healy coming home in 14th position, gaining 18 positions through the race. So that's absolutely fantastic run from Michael Healy, and yeah, definitely I would say up there is the driver of the night.
Absolutely, it was a great run, and also let's not forget the masterclass of fuel saving that Ross Rizzo put on that we were fortunate enough to jump on board with very early on the race as well. He had a great run to come home in the lead, and might see if we can pull up our final race results and quickly touch on where everyone finished through. But before we do, again, very special thank you to series sponsors for helping us out with this one, with Seal Batteries, naming right sponsor, Sydney Computers, and also A Moment in Sim Photography for all the fantastic post-race photos that they put out for everyone.
Race results here. Ross Rizzo taking the win by 2.2 seconds for Trick Esports. Danny Davison in second there. James Glasspool for Trick Esports, and Trent Thomas for Trick Esports as well, rounding out the top 4. So 3 of the 4 Trick Esports car. Tom Huggan, Tim Phoeben for Mark 1 Esports, Matt Morris and Steve Jansen, Adrian Flock and Dale Bread rounding out the top 10. Jesse Butler, Tyson Broad, Adrian Lecty, Michael Healy and Joel Chigazara, Paul Warwick, Jason Bentz and Martin Silvassi, as we touched on before, in 18th position there with a fantastic drive. Unfortunately, Nathan Huppert's had a bit of a spin and dropped down to 19th place. Lockhart Brownlee in 20th for Fusion Sim Racing as well. Javin Wood in 21st, the sole Porsche tonight, so he did a fantastic job. Todd George in 22nd. Michael Whiting kept very quiet actually there in the Fishy Motorsports entry. Generally see Michael up the grid a little bit more. Amber Griffin as well. She hasn't had as great a race as what she normally would have with us there for the Project Dynamic race car. Brenton Hawkins in 25th. Pat Gallo had a pretty quiet night down there in 26th. Lucas McAuliffe, and rounding us out was Justin Quinn.
And it looks like we've got our podium trio in the green room waiting. We might bring Ross Rizzo in and have a quick chat to him, race winner tonight. And Ross Rizzo, another win to your name, mate. Congratulations. It was a fantastic battle between yourself and Danny Davison right throughout that race. Looked like some very early fuel saving, which helped pay it off when the pit stops came around. But from your point of view, how was the run out there tonight?
That was an incredible race, and there was a little bit of the intent was to fuel save. I didn't actually save as much as I ultimately wanted, but still my fuel numbers were a lot better than Danny's, and that's ultimately where the race was won.
Well, yeah, let's talk through that, because I mean, we saw you managing your fuel numbers very early on. You got a great run down on Danny Davison down through the carousel, and were able to take advantage of a little mistake that he made to get through on the lead. He came back at you a little later on. Was the intent just to let him go through and then try and get back in and manage those numbers again accordingly, or were you just running your own race at that point in time?
Well, if I was leading, I was just giving him free fuel because there was no way I was going to pull away from him. So the plan was to just stay behind. He made the mistake, so I thought, oh look, I might as well make a battle out of it and see if we can get James back into the fray. And ultimately, that turned out to be a masterstroke in hindsight, because then he got ahead of him as well by us doing a little bit of wobbling and a little artificial slowing down and things like that, where he was able to kind of close the gap a little bit, save a bit of fuel on his own, and then we saw in the pit stop that he came out ahead of Danny as well, and that ultimately provided the buffer that I needed. I definitely wasn't expecting it. I was expecting maybe a 1 second lead at best, where ultimately I would have to defend for my life against his relentless pace, but it turned out far better than I could have imagined.
Yeah, well, yourself and the Trick Esport guys had a fantastic drive tonight with James in third and Trent picking up the fourth, so almost a Trick Esports lockout, but we know that one is not too far from coming through. Next race, we're off to the rolling hills of Road Atlanta in Georgia. Fantastic track. How do you think the Fords are going to go, and do you enjoy going there at all?
Well, I do love Road Atlanta, and I believe the Ford is renowned to be extremely good there. To be honest, I've not driven it there, or at least not from memory, so I'm going to get my first taste of it next week. So I'm pretty excited. I just hope I can kind of deliver on the Ford form. But if this turn of pace of Danny is anything to go by, we're in for an absolute belter of a race, because he's made a lot of progress in the last couple of weeks in that Ford. He's closed the gap big time, and tonight he was definitely quicker. So next week's going to be a great race.
Absolutely, mate. Well, again, for both Ryan and myself, congratulations on another round win. You really set yourself up for a great run home in the championship towards the back end of the season. But before we let you go and enjoy the celebrations tonight, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out? Thanks to?
First to you guys at Aussie Mixed and Fixed for the lead and broadcast for the league and broadcasting the races, and to the boys at Trick Esports, Trick Custom Fabrications, and Pro Singular.
Fantastic, Ross, and again, congratulations, mate, and look forward to hopefully catching up with you at the conclusion of the next one at Road Atlanta.
All right, thanks very much, guys.
That was Ross Rizzo, round 5 race winner, and in next we might bring Danny Davison in, and he can have a chat with Ryan Colstadt.
Good evening, Danny, and congratulations on second place tonight.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I mean, can't say I'm too happy, to be honest, but expect a little bit more, but I guess it's decent. I'll have to take it.
I think you got done by strategy there by the Trick boys, and they managed to do a lot of fuel saving, especially Ross behind you. For the majority of that first stint, was able to save a lot of fuel and therefore be not as stationary as long as what you were in the pit stop phase, and that's where he managed to make that time after the pit stop.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I predicted. I knew Ross is very tricky, and he's just going to save fuel and pretty much jump in the pits. I was hoping I could, if he made a mistake, I could break the slipstream in the first stint, but as usual, he was very consistent, and we couldn't do much. He's just sitting there, and I was still surprised how much time I lost in the pits. I did overfuel slightly, but these little things add up, I guess, and it sort of cost me today. I mean, have to improve that area. It's something we always struggle in, sort of the pit stops. But yeah, unfortunate.
Oh, look, it's unfortunate, but still second position with this grid is still a fantastic result. And we go off to Road Atlanta next week, and the Fords will be strong there again. It is definitely classified as a Ford track, so you'll be able to continue that battle with Ross there at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. I haven't driven the Ford there, but I'm looking forward to Road Atlanta. It's sort of tricky. It's a tricky track. So I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to knock Ross off finally. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, congratulations on second anyway, and yeah, we look forward to you taking the fight to Ross next week.
Cheers, guys. Shout out to you guys for all the behind-the-scenes work you guys are doing, and see you guys next week.
Catch you, mate. And finally, we'll bring in our third place guy, James Glasspool, and Dan will have a bit of a chat with you.
Yeah, James, congratulations on third, mate. Fantastic drive for yourself and Trick Esports tonight there. You really found form in the Ford. How was it out there?
It was good. It was, I was just saying to Ross and Danny, it was, even though it looked cruisy, it was actually quite stressful. Just being consistent with our laps, make sure you hit the markers. Like, it's one of those tracks where, you do have the draft, but on that back straight, but if you miss your marks, you really get punished for it. So particularly out of turn one and the final turn as well. So it was really happy with it. Like, Ross and I were both surprised that we jumped Danny in the pits. But just chatting with him before, it sounded like he overfueled by I think 6 or 7 litres more than both Ross and I. So that definitely helped us. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, definitely. If you get the numbers right on the stop, you definitely got some time to gain. We did hear there's been a fair bit of team assistant recently that's helped yourself with getting the most out of the car. Obviously, next week we're off to Road Atlanta. How do you think that's going to bode for you there?
It's my favourite track by far. So it's I've actually raced it in real life when I was racing on bicycle racing. So it sort of it is by far and above my favourite track on the game, but whether it obviously translates. I know it's a Ford track as well, so that does it's a handy combination. But yeah, this is Watkins and Road Atlanta are probably a couple of my favourite tracks on the system, so that does make it a little bit nicer when we do the league races here.
Absolutely, and I think as the guys have all said, it's going to be very good for the Ford. It's going to have nice balance. How do you think the Ford's going to handle getting down through the curbs through the SSF?
That'll be very interesting. I think it should be fine as long as you get your inputs right. Obviously, that's the same as we do every track, but I think just with familiarisation of just understanding how the rear slides around through there, I think it'll be fine. It'll be interesting when it gets to the end of the stint though. Like tonight, I was really struggling in that second stint, but yeah, that'll be just a bit of race management when we get there.
Oh, mate, it was a great drive from yourself and for Trick Esports, as I mentioned with Ross Rizzo. You guys had a fantastic drive out there tonight, all of the team. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out? Thanks, sir. I'd
just actually like to thank the team for bringing me in as well. So I spent a bit of time in a different team, and yeah, they've really lifted my game. So I'd like to thank Ant and Marty for bringing me in. I'd like to thank Trick Fabrication and Pro Sim Gear as well, and look forward to next week.
Fantastic, mate. Again, congratulations from us here. It was a great drive for yourself to come home in third tonight, and hopefully we'll see you back up on the podium for the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
And that was James Glasspool, third place driver tonight. Ryan, as we touched on before, we're off to the rolling hills of Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, off to Busselton, Georgia. It's a great circuit, a lot of challenging corners for these guys to navigate through, not only through the first part of the lap, but also at the conclusion with the bus stop and then trying to get up over the hill.
Yeah, it's an interesting track. It's one that I've never really come to terms with. Coming down through the S's, and then when you're using the full track, obviously turning left in that very high speed left corner where we see a lot of people come unstuck and hit the wall. Then after you've gotten through all of that, then you come down that back straight into that really interesting chicane, downhill braking zone. And then you come up over a blinded crest and turn very hard right onto the pit straight. And there's a lot of places we can get it wrong at Road Atlanta. So yeah, very much looking forward to it and seeing how the guys come to grips with it.
Absolutely. I think also too, the big challenge for the guys, not only during getting the race consistency, but then also so the run into pit lane. As you say, you come off that blind crest under the bridge there, trying to get the car turned enough to get into the lane and then braked enough to get onto the pit straight there. It's going to be really tricky for them to work their way through. So I think we're in for a fantastic one again, and that will be brought to you for round 6 next time out at Road Atlanta. It'll be a fantastic race. Again, thank you to series sponsors and organisers for putting everything on, and apologies again. There was that little bit of issues early on with trying to get the session live, but thank you to everyone for patiently waiting, and to all the series organisers who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to get that up and running. To our series sponsors, Seal Batteries, Sydney Computers, and A Moment in Cinematography, thank you very much for coming on board to help out this championship. And just a quick reminder too, for anyone who'd love to come and have a race, it is an open league. Everyone is welcome. Please jump in either the Facebook page or the AMF website. Links on how you can join the championships, and you never know, we might see you up here challenging with the likes of Ross Rizzo, Dean Davis and James Glasspool. It would be fantastic to see how that all unfolds. For everyone here, though, at AMF, I'd like to thank Ryan Colster, again, pulling double duties behind the scenes on both production and commentary tonight. Very much appreciated, mate. And for myself, Danielle, I'd like to wish you all a great night, and hopefully we'll see you back for round 6 at Road Atlanta.